So as promised, let's talk a little bit about power. Now, as it turns out, I've been doing a project for an embarrassing number of years on small d democratic power. So power has become kind of an important thing in my life. And I've been looking at it, reading about it for many, many years at this point. And one of the things that I've noticed in my research on this is that sociologists, we talk about power a lot. We talk about it all the damn time. And yet, don't do a particularly good job of defining exactly what power is. Now, yeah, you could go into a sociology 101 textbook, you find a definition of power. If you go into it a little further, there's all kinds of definitions of power out there. Some of them are better than others, but none of them are really truly satisfying. They don't really break it down. What exactly is power? So I'm hoping to resolve that in this particular video here and with this project in general, so we'll see how it works out. So power, according to my observations, can be looked at in terms of two different layers. The first layer is what I refer to as foundational power. Foundational power is exercised at the individual level, and it is a measure of an individual's physicality, right? And by that I mean that foundational power is the ability to transform your environment, to make changes in your environment. So it's measurable, it's observable, we can see it in action. Let's say you go in the backyard, you're doing yard work, there's this annoying rock that's been there for a long time. You got to move that rock, right? So your ability to move that rock from point A to point B is an exercise in your foundational power. It is observable. It is, you know, we can measure it, right? And that's great. But now, what if that rock is just too damn big? What if it's just too damn heavy? You can't move that rock. Well, what you might want to do at that point is call up your friend. Hey, dude, I need this rock moved. Your friend comes over and helps you move the rock. What have you done? Well, what you've done is the first iteration of that second level of power, what I refer to as functional power. In other words, you've engaged the foundational power of multiple individuals, in this case two, and you've structured it in a way to achieve a particular end. Again, it's observable, it's measurable, right? And that is functional power, that second level. And this is an amazing thing because all of society is structured around this idea of functional power when you really stop and think about it, right? Every single social group, every organization, every institution can be looked at as a conveyance of foundational power by structuring and organizing it according to certain rules and values and norms. That's all it is. So every single society is basically the accumulation of these institutions that have organized foundational power and structured it in such a way to achieve the ends of the society. Now, why would your friend help you move a rock? Right? Moving a rock sucks. I don't want to move a rock. Yeah, I live in South Florida. It's freaking hot right now. I don't want to move a rock. Why would I do that? Well, this is where we start to engage the motivators for human behavior, right? And there's two different kinds of motivators for human behavior, external and internal. Let's talk about the external first because especially in a capitalist society, we are primed to respond to external motivators. External motivators are things that are added to the social arrangement to motivate human behavior. And there's two different kinds of external motivators. The first is what I call positive external motivator. You may call it a reward, or you may call it an incentive, right? It's a positive external motivator. Hey, come on over, help me move this rock, and we'll split a six-pack afterward. And that's a positive external motivator. We've added the six-pack to the social arrangement. It may be a negative external motivator, right? We may use some kind of coercion or the threat of coercion. Hey, come on over, help me move this rock, or I'll tell your wife what really happened Saturday night. Which, that's not cool. Don't do that. Don't do that. Anyway, that would be a negative external motivator, right? But you know your friend. You call your friend up and ask him to come and help you move a rock. He's going to come over and help you move the rock. Why? Why would he do that? Six-pack or no six-pack, he's going to help you move the rock. Well, that's where we get into what I refer to as internal motivators. An internal motivator is your friend has internalized a story, a social story, about what it means to be a friend. And a friend helps another friend move a rock. So he's internalized a story about what it means to be a friend, You are telling a story about you needing to have this rock moved. Your story aligns with their story, and he's motivated to help you out. He's motivated to do that work. That is an internal motivator. Now, all institutions do this, right? Take your workplace, for example. Your workplace is going to use external motivators. They're going to pay you to do a job, provide benefits, status, the whole 9 yards. They may use negative motivators. There's the threat of being fired or written up or denied opportunities if you don't do the job well. External and positive motivators, negative external motivators, right? But work sites are most effective when they tell a compelling story about the value of that workplace and the value of the work that you do. That motivates you even more than external motivators, and research on this done by economists show that internal motivators are usually more effective than external motivators to get more work out of people. So these internal motivators, so your workplace is going to use a combination of all of these. Now, we can take a look too, we could extend this a little bit further to maybe a third level where we look at the people at the top of these institutions who can then direct this power through functional power as a motivator for foundational power, and they can be seen as powerful, right? It's a tenuous kind of power that we'll talk a little bit about later on, but we can see those individuals as being powerful. It's a really interesting, it's a really great schema for understanding how society is organized and how we can define power in terms of human relations, right? Now, the state is a kind of a special kind of an institution, right? Because a state, I mean, if we take a look and we think in terms of power of institutions and organizations, and we could probably measure the level of power by looking at how many individuals, how much foundational power has been incorporated into that institution. Well, a state then is going to be a really powerful institution because a state can motivate the behaviors of everybody within a polity that we refer to in modern times as a nation. So states in modern sense are what we would refer to as nation states. Shout out to you, Rico. So the state is an institution that is able to motivate the behaviors of everybody within that national category, right? And, of course, the state is going to use the same kind of motivators that everybody else is going to use. Now, the state, of course, is going to use internal motivators, right? You're going to do the things that the state asks you to do because you have incorporated, you have internalized the story of the importance of the state and the value, and I'm going to use the word legitimacy that we're going to elaborate maybe a little bit later on, the legitimacy of the state to make these demands on you, right? But the state is also going to use external motivators. The state can pay you to do the job, right? Or they can provide tax incentives, or they can find ways of incentivizing you to do the work that the state thinks is valuable. But they can also use, now the state is very, very special in that it is the institution in Weberian terms, Max Weber, in his terms, the state is the institution that is actually empowered to use violence to achieve its ends. We don't allow any other institutions to really do that, but we allow the state to do that. Well, that's the ultimate negative external motivator. In fact, some states can actually put you to death. There's nothing more negative than that, right? So this is where we start getting into a discussion of rights as a component of the storytelling that legitimizes the state. And we're going to get into that in the next video.